What's up, everyone? It's Woody. If you're curious to know what happens in between rally events with the rally car for preparations, stay tuned for today's video because we're going to be working on Stitch. Right now I'm heading over to Turbo Time where I'm going to meet up with Ryan, the crew chief. Did the same thing last weekend. This is the last full weekend before Stitch gets picked up to be carried north for the Ojibwe Rally in Minnesota. So we're going to be trying to wrap up as much as we can, getting some good footage along the way, hopefully. So first I'm going to throw in some footage from last Saturday that doesn't have much voiceover and a lot of how-tos, and then hopefully today I'll be able to get a little more into what we're actually doing. So stay tuned and I'll see you on the other side.
What's up, guys? I'm going to start today's video first by apologizing if the audio is a little bit off. One thing I didn't do with this video is bring an external mic setup, so it might sound a little bit weird since I'm using the camera audio. At this point in the video, we're looking at going through and doing a pressure watch of Stitch. That's just going to make sure that all the dirt, grime, and anything that's built up from the last event is off before we start working on the car itself.
All right, just kind of a quick overview, guys. Right now we're going through the car, just sprayed it down, pressure washed the engine bay and around the exterior and underneath the body. They found in the last rally they were getting a lot of dust and dirt inside on the floorboard, so we're trying to locate anything that might be leaking. So spraying water underneath helps us to do that. So far we found a screw hole just under the passenger seat, and it looks like another one to the front of the passenger footwell. So we're going to work on trying to patch those next, figure out what's there. And we also need to put a foam insert around the roof scoop so we can help to make sure that when they close that roof scoop in rainy events or dusty events where they don't want the air coming in, it actually seals, because the old foam that's in there is a little bit broken down. Have to go through and replace a couple of mounts to make sure that we have access to the trunk light and the trunk release. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. And then eventually, in the last video you may have seen that there was a little bit of an issue with the suspension she has now where she bent the foot of the coilover. So we're kind of going through pressure washing that, cleaning it up. We've got the coilovers coming in, but they're not here just yet, so we're probably gonna end up changing those out right before Ojibwe to make sure she's got some good coilovers in the rear, and then we'll eventually get to the front as well. So that's kind of where we're at, and I'll keep you updated as we go. So as we can see here, we've got a decent little puddle of mud right here. And then we've also got some wetness in the back over here. And we can see there's a hole right here that you can actually see daylight underneath the car. There's a hole right here that it looks like this used to be plugging. So we need to find a better way to reinforce that. Lastly, we've got a hole right here that I think might be letting some water in. But I think that there and the one behind the fire extinguisher mount are our biggest problem, most likely. So we'll see if we can patch those up. And that should hopefully fix most of our leaking issues. Once we get those plugged, we'll go ahead and try to spray again, see what we get. Next thing we're looking at is the gas tank access hatch. Keeps coming loose, and we think some dirt may be getting in there, so we're gonna go ahead and remove that and see if we can't get that sorted out. If we look at this straight on, we can see that there's a bit of a bend over in this corner, which this is where it was lifted, as well as a little over here. So we're gonna see if we can't hammer this a little flatter, make sure everything fits in the way that it's supposed to. That'll cut down on some of the dirt and grime that we're getting back here. It's about 5 o'clock now. We've been working on the car for several hours. The next task I've been working on is inside here in the hood scoop. We can hopefully see that there's a piece of foam that's in there now. I've been working on cutting that out to fit there so that we can try to keep some of the water and dust out when they close that hatch. The roof scoop on these cars is designed so that it's got a hatch inside to open or close to allow air to vent in, and whenever there's rain or it's a super dusty environment, you can close it down and make sure nothing gets in. They've been having some problems where when it's raining out, they can't get that dust to stop coming in, or the rain won't come in. So we're trying to replace the foam on that now, and I've got that cut out. We still need to get some glue to glue it in place permanently, and then we'll do some final trimming to make sure it can shut down. We'll see how much more we get done today, but it's getting pretty hot out. It's 86 with a real feel of 91 degrees. Finally decided to get the gator out to try to keep the sun off my neck, and it's finally getting some cloud cover, thankfully. It's been pretty hot, but we're making progress, and probably about the point we're going to be stopping here pretty soon. So we just got here to Turbo Time, and hopefully we're gonna get some work started. Gonna go in, say hello to everyone. At this point in the process, I showed up here. Ryan kind of gave me a rundown of what we're looking at. Some of the parts that we need actually aren't in stock yet. So what we're gonna work on today is going through in order to remove the dirt from the inside and fill a couple of holes that we have. So for now, we're vacuuming to get the dirt out that is coming in through those holes. And once that's done, we're going to put some silicone in the holes and see if we can patch them up to cover through until Ojibwe is done. For this part, I thought it would be really cool to use a chest cam to record cleaning everything up. But after watching it in fast forward, I decided let's not make everyone seasick. So just trust me, I vacuumed the floorboards, and then I went through and started plugging holes, which is the next part. Once again, I got caught up in doing the work and forgot to record what I was doing. So right now we're going through and getting ready to attach the foam for the hood scoop that helps to keep the water and the dust out. So the pieces we had weren't quite long enough, so we ended up cutting these to show the fins where it's going to fit in, and then gluing the two pieces together on the factory edge. And while we're waiting for that to dry, we're going through
and removing all of the foam that was inside of there. So you can see on the underside of that hatch, there's not any foam left, hopefully, as I pulled it all out. But that's what we had to pull out so we could get the new one to fit in there. And you can see there's 3 different fins. So we want to work around that, and that's where there's 3 slices in the foam. And when this hatch door closes, let's see if I can reach that. When the hatch door closes, that's going to create a seal so that the water doesn't get in there. And it opens both ways to the rear to keep dirt from getting in, and the front to allow the most airflow. So that foam's going to go in there on the front edge and keep the water and the dust from coming in when it's shut and when it's in the rear position. So that's the next thing we're doing, is trying to get that in there. And that's been a bit of a hassle, but I think we got most of the foam out there and used some prep saw to go ahead and get that removed. So the reason we're trying to get this foam out is the new foam is going to have to mount on that surface. So we want to try to clean that as well as possible to make sure we get a good bond and a good seal when that hatch closes.
What we're doing here is a quick test fit of the foam piece in the roof vent. We want to make sure that it fits in place, that it can close without catching on any of the sides of the foam, and that it forms a good seal. It took a little bit of testing to get the vent to close, but once we did, we just left it shut so it could form that seal, and then later on we're going to go through and actually glue it in place.
You just saw me remove this piece, which is a wheel scraper. And what that does is it actually scrapes along the inside of the rim, which helps to prevent rocks and dirt and everything from building up on the rim until it affects the actual contact with the rotor. So if the wheel catches all this mud and everything builds up, it'll eventually get thick enough to where it gets inside of your brakes. So what this does is it scrapes all of that from the wheel so that it can't build up. So what we're doing here, because this was actually a little bit too far down and too close to the wheel, we want to move it up to bring it just a little bit closer to the rotor. And then we're going to take this plastic piece and move it out a little more and make it closer to the wheel. And that's just to reduce clearance, because we noticed in the last race we were getting some rubbing on some of these bolts because it was too close to the wheel and gouging them. So we want to fix that so that we don't have any more problems and don't have to replace the wheels prematurely. So we're just going to take these holes and kind of ream them out to make them a little bit bigger in the sake of time, so that it's ready for Ojibwe, and then we'll get a more permanent fix once we get closer to the next event. Now we've gone ahead and rounded out the holes to make them a little bit more oblong. We're going to test fit, see how it goes. I had to grind a little outward to make sure that it fits with the nub, and we're going to test fit that now.
Next order of business we're working on is running the trunk light switch to a new position. It was dangling right here, and rather than having it there and getting caught with anything that comes in, we're going to run it here, which you can see I've run through a couple of the existing zip ties going down the wire loom. We're going to look at mounting this switch right in here,
towards the rear of the taillight, so it's easy to access, but doesn't get caught whenever you're working. So right now, we've stripped the wires back, and we are going to be using a butt connector for now to connect these two together. Then we're going to cut the wire here, mount our switch right here, and get it all set up. So we're getting ready to wrap up for the night. One other job that we did that I forgot to record is where the the trunk release comes out. We went ahead and drilled a little bit of a hole in that that's on a slant and spray painted that to prevent any rusting. And then we put in a mount for our trunk release cable so that we can have that accessible. And Ryan's been working on some wiring up in the passenger floorboard that he's just finishing up. And that's all we're gonna get done for today. We've still got to put the fuel access hatch back on. We need to see if we can get in and do some work on the brakes. Tomorrow they're going to work on draining the transmission and doing a fill on that to get that clean. We need to zip tie the fender liners back up in the underside, or the rock protection sliders. And that should have her pretty much ready until she gets up towards Minnesota, where they're going to do some last minute work with suspension, which we've just gotten broken loose. And like I said, I think we're about done for the night. We're gonna call it an evening, and Mike and Ryan are gonna keep working tomorrow. I won't be able to make it back out tomorrow. And next weekend, like I mentioned earlier, that's when the car is gonna be taken off, so we'll see how much we can get done this weekend, and anything that remains will have to be done either during the following week or once it gets up north. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode. Next week you'll probably see something that's an older video that I recorded before Nefer, and once that comes out, that'll hold you over until we get some of the Ojibwe footage. So we'll talk to you soon.